What would you say if I told you that a $100 million donation was coming to your church and you would never again have to talk about money? We'll talk about that concept on this edition of the Giving Series. Hi, I'm Bill Hobson, and right from the start, I want to give proper credit to the insightful team at Auxano, specifically a recent webinar hosted by Kent Vincent and Greg Gibbs, where they talked about the hypothetical $100 million test, asking how your church would react to a donation of $100 million. Now, the test is, would that sort of financial injection mean no more mention of money ever from the pulpit? Now, before you answer, let's think through some of the prior concepts I've presented here on the Giving Series, especially as it pertains to giving as a form of worship. Do you lean towards saying, yes, we would definitely stop mentioning money since our needs will have been met by that gigantic gift? Now, if that's your approach, I'd love to hear how you arrive at that position, and I have a few follow-up questions. For instance, why would you strive to avoid talking about something that Jesus addressed so frequently? Another question, are there other forms of worship that carry a price tag? Could somebody donate $500,000 if the worship leader would stop using a bass guitar and instead insert a mandolin? Now, I understand the odds of someone slipping a cool 100 mil into the offering box at the back of the sanctuary are only slightly better than those of the Detroit Lions playing in next year's Super Bowl. But the point of the exercise is to drive home a larger, more important point and to foster an important discussion among your church leadership. Here's the question. How do we really think about money in our ministry? Is it just an inconvenient interruption to the things we would much rather do, or is it a vital aspect of the life of the follower of Christ? I would submit to you that the desire to remove any and all mentions of money in the worship experience is to completely miss the mark. Now you say, if we had $100 million come in, how could we in good conscience ever ask people to continue giving? And I would ask, how could you in good conscience and obedience not invite people to give? If giving is a form of worship, and it is, not inviting giving is to deprive the people of a divinely ordained way to thank the Lord for his goodness and to play an important role in the ministry. Allow me to read, if you don't mind, 2 Corinthians 8, verses 1 through 7. And now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches in the midst of a very severe trial. Their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testified that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own, they urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the Lord's people, and they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves, first of all, to the Lord, and then, by the will of God, also to us. So we urged Titus, just as he had earlier made a beginning, to bring also to completion this act of grace on your part. But since you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, and knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in the love we have kindled in you, see then that you also excel in this grace of giving. Now I'll give you a brief moment to pick yourself up off the floor at the idea of people giving so much that they were asked to stop. And I'll conclude this session of the Giving Series by quoting the gentleman from Auxano again. They said this, "The goal of church is not to get to a place where we never again need to address the issue of money." And I'll add this, instead of seeking ways to avoid or remove discussions of giving, your church will benefit greatly by embracing and teaching how giving fits into the journey of following Christ fully, opening up every aspect of our lives to his leading. We'd love to help you implement those ideas by talking with your leadership team about where your ministry currently stands in its relationship on the issues around giving. If you'd like to have that conversation, there's no cost or obligation. We would love to hear from you at thegivingseries@gmail.com. Thanks for being willing to think through these issues surrounding giving and your church ministry. I look forward to a conversation with you, hopefully in the near future, and we'll see you again next time on the next edition of the Giving Series.